I trained my whole team, stayed loyal for 6 years, then my boss said I wasn't team lead material and hired outside instead. What I did shook everyone. It's been a few months now since this happened, but I can't get past this, and I guess I just want to get this off my chest in hopes that it'll help me get over it. Here we go. I've been working at the same company for over 6 years. The company is medium-sized, I would say, and at the time I was hired, we didn't have a marketing department. With time, the company grew, and after 1 year of working there, they offered I be the one to kickstart the marketing department. I accepted. For 2 years, I was the only person in the marketing department. I did everything all by myself. I knew how everything worked. I kept my numbers and quality high, that my manager even asked my boss to give me a bonus for my hard work. As the company grew, the work became too much for just one person, so they gave me a team. We were now 4 in total. I trained and pretty much lead the team, but the thing is, my title never went past marketing agent. I thought that with all the things I'm doing, I'd at least get marketing manager by now. I expressed this to my manager, who said that they'll see what can be done. Months pass, my title remained the same, but then in a meeting with my manager one day, they told me that our boss is thinking that there should be a marketing team lead on the team. They said that they think it's going to be me, as I started off the department, trained everyone, have the most knowledge, and have been in the company for 6 years now. Obviously, I got excited hearing that, and I patiently waited for boss to finally drop the news to me. The news ended up being that they were looking for a marketing team lead. And they decided to hire externally. I can't even put into words the way I felt. Even now, I still feel like I've been punched in the gut. It feels so unfair and humiliating. I was the first person in the marketing department. I have the most experience. Why would you hire someone with 0 experience instead? I asked my manager why I wasn't considered for it, and their response was basically just, boss just couldn't see you being a team lead. Hearing that seriously killed my self-esteem and made me feel even more humiliated. They eventually hired the person to take on the team lead role, and what made me want to slam my head against the wall is that they made me train them on everything I knew. Listen, the new team lead is a nice person and I really don't want to hate them because it's not their fault, but my bitterness is so strong, I just don't even want to interact with them unless they / I need help. So now, I'm stuck being marketing agent forever, I guess. But what really drove me to write this on Reddit is the new team member. One person on the team left and was replaced with someone else, who just started last month. The team lead is on vacation, so I was the one asked to train the new hire. As I was training them, we talked and I told them a little about myself, about how I started the department and everything. And then they said, so, all that just to not be team lead? And that honestly just pissed me off? I don't know if it's their wording, their tone, or the look of pity on their face that got to me, but I just shut down. I laughed it off, finished up with training, and just barely worked the whole day. And the day after that. Even now, I feel like my numbers are lower than usual, my quality definitely dropped, but I just can't care anymore. I know I could just quit, but this company's benefits are amazing, and I've made so many friends here that would make leaving so hard. Traveling for work every few months allowed me to see different cities and take in new experiences. But I just can't get past this, and I don't know if I ever will. I might just go through the days until I really just can't do it anymore. If you've read up until this point, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it and I really hope this situation never happens to you. Edit. Hi again, everyone. I just want to thank you all for your advice, you've all been very helpful and you've all given me the confidence to send my resume to other companies for a team lead or manager position, smiley face. I'll be sending my resume to more as they pop up, the market is terrible right now, but I am pretty confident. Now I just have to act like normal in this current position until I hear from one of them. Wish me luck. For those wondering how I trained the new team lead, I did not teach them everything I knew. Hell no. I taught them enough to do their job, but when it comes to the deeper knowledge, I held back. I personally just thought it was the smartest decision for me, as teaching them all I knew wouldn't have benefited me at all. It's up to my company to teach them everything else, not keep relying on me. When I was asked to train the new hire, I did mention that I shouldn't train them if we have a team lead. But boss hit back saying that I would be responsible if the team fell behind if we waited until the team lead got back from vacation. I didn't want to cause stress for the rest of the team and myself, so I, stupidly, complied. I did consider threatening to leave if I didn't get the team lead role, but I held back because I was afraid of the response LOL. I was afraid they would have just let me go and I'd be left unemployed without a backup job, especially considering the job market right now. But I guess my pride also played a part in it. I really wanted to be given the team lead role because they believed in me / wanted to give it to me, not because I threatened them. I also do quite like my job, so I thought I could suck it up, but it's really not worth the mental suffering. Huge thanks again for reading my ramblings. Have a great one, guys. Update, 3 months later I got a job as marketing team lead. Just finished week 3. The market is rough right now, but I'm glad I didn't give up and just kept applying. My new job's a little challenging, but my mental health is in a better place now knowing I could finally, fully let go of that grudge. If you're in a similar situation, don't lose hope. When I gave in my notice, I would pay just to see the look on my boss' face again when I told them I was leaving for a marketing team lead job. They tried to salary match, but I declined. They asked what they could do to keep me, but I kept it polite and just said that it was time for me to experience more in a different role now. I could tell they were really pissed, but I couldn't care less, lol. And then apparently they talked smack about me to the manager, that I was betraying them and all that BS. It's so embarrassing, LMAO. Of course, before I left, I asked my manager what I needed to improve on to be a better team lead so I can do even better in my new role. I was told things like be a little more strict, have more confidence, and other things I made sure to write down to work on. And I know it's been months, but I still wanted to ask again why I was passed up the promotion at this company. So apparently it's because they made it so that the team lead did more admin work, more team reports, team evaluations, team decisions, and coming up with new procedures, and less marketing. Apparently, since I'm the most senior with consistent results, they didn't want to lose that by making me team lead. So they figured keeping me as a marketing agent was the smartest move for the company. I fully understand their decision, but screw that, LMAO. I feel like I'm actually doing what a team lead should be doing in my new company, and that's all I really wanted. It just feels like they're still trying to figure out what a team lead should do, and I'm not willing to stick around for that again. Thank you again everyone for encouraging me to look for another job. I got way too comfortable in my last job that I allowed them to walk all over me. You aren't handcuffed to a certain company forever, it's okay to leave when you feel there's no more growth for you. Have a great one, everyone. Moving on to our next story, and it says, HR won't do anything about a coworker who's angry about my weight loss. I just came back to work after a month-long emergency medical leave. The TLDR is that after a decade of medical gaslighting, a new doctor ordered an emergency MRI during a routine visit and discovered a mass in my abdomen. I was rushed into surgery within 24 hours. I ended up having an 18-pound benign tumor pressing on my vital organs, and I was about a week away from multiple organ failure. I'm lucky to be alive, and time will tell if I have any lasting organ damage, but right now everything is fine. Mentally I'm struggling with a few things, but the only outwardly noticeable impact is that I've gone from a size 20 to a size 8. Nobody on my medical team anticipated a change this drastic, but I'm healthy and lucky. I was expecting to get a lot of questions from my coworkers because curiosity exists. I had a basic emergency surgery, but I'm fine now, answer that almost everyone accepted but one coworker who I hardly speak to, Aubrey. On my first day back to work, Aubrey came up to me and said, "I wish you had come to me to lose the weight instead of resorting to such drastic measures. You're going to gain it all back, you know. I'll be waiting." I was aware of Aubrey's reputation, but since we never worked together I didn't think it would be an issue. She's one of those people who think they're a fitness expert and calls herself a health coach, nothing to do with the company we work for. She has a reputation for giving out unsolicited and incorrect health advice and is always commenting on people's food choices. I was speechless when she asked why I opted to get butchered instead of putting in the hard work to lose the weight. There's nothing wrong with someone choosing surgical weight loss options, but that's not what happened to me, and I really resented her aggressive attitude / spreading rumors. During my second week back, she came by my office at the end of the day in athletic gear, offering to go with me if I was too afraid to go to the gym alone. At the time I wasn't even cleared to lift my kid, do laundry, or climb a flight of stairs, let alone go to the gym with this crackpot. I don't remember what I said to her, but she left saying I'd gain the weight back because I'm lazy. The next day Aubrey ranted angrily about me in a meeting I wasn't in, missed it for a follow-up, ironically. I don't know everything that was said, but the gist was that if I can't dedicate myself to weight loss, I obviously can't see my work obligations through. HR called for a red flag mediation. At our company, mediation can go against your bonus opportunities for the year. I have no idea why I'm in mediation when she's the one being an asshat. At the mediation, Aubrey stated that she was triggered by my new body, and I should have thought of other people's feelings and warned her before my surgery. I hardly had time to warn my husband and get my kid out of daycare. I don't owe Aubrey anything. I have empathy that she's obviously struggling, but that does not excuse her behavior. HR said that while they can't ask me to explain my medical history, it might clear the air if I told her what kind of surgery I had and why. I said I wasn't obligated to share my medical information with anyone, and that Aubrey having bad coping skills doesn't entitle her to a coworker's personal health information. Their response was kind of, "Well, then we can't stop her from bullying you." After Thanksgiving, my doctor helped me put in ADA accommodation paperwork so I could work from home. I was having some mild complications from surgery but also to avoid Aubrey. This company hates remote work, so they're really not happy. Aubrey still emails me workout videos and diet plans, and when I forward them to HR their response is, noted. Do you know when you're coming back to the office? I've been thinking about escalating this to corporate with an employment lawyer. Is that overkill? I'm still in a sensitive place after my surgery and I have no energy for this, especially since Aubrey is fixated on weight loss, which was the primary way doctors gaslit me for years. I've been with this company for 5 years and I'm just exhausted and disappointed in how they're handling this, and I want it over yesterday. Update: all I have to say for this update is hold on to your banana pants. I saw a lot of comments asking where management was in all this, so I'll address that first. My boss, George, was getting ready to retire while this was going on. George is roughly my grandfather's age, so this entire situation bewildered both him and his replacement, who he was training at the time. Both of them met with Aubrey's boss, because believe me, I was documenting everything she did from the jump, and they all assured me that Aubrey would be dealt with. None of them recommended the red flag mediation. That was HR's idea. I was given details of the meeting where Aubrey ranted about me and it was horrible, but apparently Aubrey was asked to leave by her own boss while several other employees told her to stop, so managerially and in the office in general, people were trying to rein her in from many different angles. HR is where the ball dropped, and dropped hard. This company just has a poor HR structure and bad entry to mid-level HR. When Aubrey's boss referred her to HR regarding her negative behavior, HR took it upon themselves to consider it a mediation situation, which, remember, at our company can go against your bonus for the year, despite communication from George, his replacement, and Aubrey's boss saying I wasn't in the wrong. When George found out about this, he spoke to the HR generalist's manager, who said that my absence probably caused a lot of strain and extra work for Aubrey, when Aubrey's not even credentialed to do what I do. Management made a point to tell me how baffled and upset they were with HR's handling of the situation every time something came up. My company mentor was also a huge support during this time until she decided to take another job elsewhere. When my doctor extended my ADA work-from-home accommodation a second time, HR responded by telling me my attendance was a concern. I emailed their boss's boss, the HR director, and asked for clarification. He said I hadn't come into the office, so of course my attendance was a problem. I reiterated I had medical documentation stating that if WFH wasn't available then they could refer to the FMLA documentation my medical team also sent. He replied that medical documentation, including both FMLA and ADA reasonable accommodations, doesn't hold much weight with the company. That's when I got a lawyer. Aubrey as a problem kind of drifted to the background when HR started their medical documentation doesn't matter campaign. On my lawyer's recommendation, I contacted the HR executive team, which is where this whole cursed situation came to light. And I did check with my lawyer about emailing this update and they laughed and said I couldn't leave people hanging after all that. I called the chief HR officer, which for my company is going over like 5 people's heads, but I did it with George's and my new boss's blessings, who is the head of HR, and asked why my attendance was an issue when I had reasonable ADA documentation. She had no idea what I was talking about, so I filled her in on all of it, including the mediation meeting and Aubrey's harassment and the HR director, her direct report, saying medical documentation didn't hold any weight with the company. She was speechless and asked to meet with me and my lawyer as soon as possible. My lawyer hardly had to do anything during the meeting because the CHRO was horrified at everything I told her. I've never actually seen steam come out of someone's ears, but if it was physically possible it would have happened here. My lawyer didn't need to say a word but just nodded and smiled when the CHRO offered an extended paid medical leave so I could handle my recovery and said Aubrey constantly sending me fitness plans would be dealt with swiftly. I didn't hear anything out of Aubrey for a long time, but I did hear through some gossip channels that the HR staff involved in the red flag meeting / threatening to write me up were let go. Aubrey wasn't fired because they believed she was misled by HR, so I understand that part even if I don't agree with it, but she was on a tight PIP for a while. Then she showed up at my house. Now we move from banana pants to full-on banana ensemble. I'm still on leave and out of the blue, Aubrey showed up at my door on a weekend with 2 other women in tow and the commenters guessed it. She's in very deep with an MLM, or maybe a cult, I can't be sure at this point. Aubrey came over to demonstrate some workout techniques and give me some diet, supplement, samples and discuss a career opportunity, because she was worried about my physical and professional health. She didn't make it past my mother-in-law, who has been a godsend right now. My mother-in-law made it clear where Aubrey could stick her demonstration and they left in a hurry. I notified my lawyer and the CHRO, and suffice it to say, Aubrey is now a full-time wellness coach. I'm happy I went with my gut and got a lawyer because the company has changed so drastically over the last year, with the toxic HR department encouraging behavior like Aubrey's and spreading false information about medical leave and time off. The company is almost unrecognizable. Also, with my boss and mentor both gone, I don't know if I'm going to go back once I'm medically cleared. The company is also undergoing a restructuring right now, and my department may end up distributed between other parts of the company or even other parts of the state. I have been looking at jobs and doing some resume drafting for a full-time remote position since it feels like it might be a better fit. But many thanks to the comment section and all the support. Final update, I got an offer from a local company that's going fully remote with administration and management meeting up once a month. The salary was right, it's 90% remote, it's a good fit, so I'm happy with it. My role is HR adjacent as head of payroll. I report to the COO and was hired by the CEO and COO. I walk into our first admin meeting, and who is sitting across from me but the HR director who told me medical documentation doesn't matter and orchestrated my red flag meeting. Let's call him Bob. Bob is the interim HR director for this company. Bob looked very uncomfortable when he saw me. We went through some employee files, including several who are on maternity leave and 2 who were injured on a job site. Bob got quieter as we began reviewing medical documentation and approving paid leave. I smiled and looked him in the eye every time I asked, "And does Jill have her medical documentation?" "Great. Medical documentation holds a lot of weight. That's important stuff to have." He looked like he wanted to melt into his seat. At one point he tried to argue against someone using their PTO to provide end-of-life care for a parent when they had ample PTO. I smiled and said, "You're right, our employee support fund should cover half this time. It's a shame for them to have to lose all their PTO when they're obviously going to need it to heal and grieve over the next few months. Why don't you get me the paperwork for the support fund this afternoon? That's so generous." Everyone was happy and in agreement. He looked like he swallowed a lemon, but everyone was like, "OMG Bob, how thoughtful." He had to eat it so bad and got me the documentation an hour later. Bob can suck it. Bob is also only a contractor, so he'll be moving on soon anyway. Medically I'm doing better. And very happy to move on from where I was. Aubrey's been full-on radio silence, which is perfect for me. Thanks AM team and commenters. Alright, moving on to our next story, and it says, employer rejected me, then sent a list of everything I did wrong. I'm a younger person who is job searching for something full-time for the first time. Haven't been having a lot of luck, of course, due to the state of the world, but I recently got an interview where I made it all the way to the final round and was rejected. At first, the company was really professional about it. They were kind enough to let me know I'd been rejected and thank me for my time. But then, about 3 days later, I got an email from one of the interviewers, a different one than the one who sent the formal rejection email. The final round had been in front of a panel. The email body text said, "Hey, here's some tips for future interviews," and attached was a Word document with a super detailed list of everything I'd done wrong, including that my answer to the question, "What's your favorite book?" was too pretentious. Note, the job wasn't for a library or any other book-related field. Although he'd been part of the final round interview panel, he hadn't been present during previous interviews, and this was the first communication I got directly from this guy. Here are all the comments from the document. It was a financial, stock company, but the job wasn't directly connected to stocks. Copywriter position, writing some ads. Website update. I can tell you are not passionate about stocks. Every member of this company has been passionately investing in the stock market as a hobby for years. You had basic technical knowledge and that's it. In general you seem to lack passion. Your answers are very thorough and well thought out but lack passion. What are you passionate about? I couldn't tell. You were clearly nervous throughout. You lack confidence. When asked about an issue you had overcome, you mentioned something that had happened in a job not related to our industry. You didn't seem to have an interest in company culture. We mentioned we are a company with lots of events and training workshops, and you didn't ask any further questions there. Your response to the favorite book question sounded pretentious and insincere. Les Miserables simply isn't a book people read for fun. You weren't enjoying yourself at all. We're a friendly company and you were tense and nervous the entire time we talked to you. You let your nerves show. Is this normal? It's left me feeling really terrible. According to him, I did so many things wrong. It's killing my confidence. Hearing that I lack passion is really scary. I'm scared it will affect me in the job search going forward. It's not an issue I ever thought I had, but now it is something that worries me daily. Update, 3 years later. 3 or so years ago, I emailed you concerned about an interviewer who had sent me feedback for a job I didn't get, including saying I lacked passion and some other stuff. I was the one whose favorite book was Les Miserables and he said I was pretentious. As many commenters guessed, he was trying to hit on me in a negging sort of way. He later tried to ask me out via LinkedIn DMs. Needless to say, it did not work. It took a while, and many other unsuccessful interviews, none of which were as rough as that one, but I eventually found a job in a field I had never considered, where I could put my writing skills to work with much less of a bro culture compared to writing for stocks/finances. I'm still in the job, got a huge promotion this year, and have even written articles about how great of a book Les Miserables is. It's still my favorite and I still reread it regularly. What prompted me to think of sending you an update is this: I recently, as part of my job, interviewed a longtime idol of mine, a celebrity I have looked up to for years, and he said to me at the end of the interview, apropos of nothing, that he had read some of my previous work and could tell how passionate I was about my writing, and that he was so happy to be interviewed by someone so passionate about their work. As for Mr. Interview feedback, no idea how he's doing, and no desire to know, but I'm in my dream job and happier than I ever thought I could be. Thank you again for all of your advice. Moving on to our next story, and it says, company car I was driving was hit by a drunk driver. Insurance fully paid for the car, but the company says I still owe them $40,000. I was on my way home from work in my company car when I was hit almost head-on by a drunk driver. He was found at fault by the police and the insurance company and was charged and convicted. His insurance settled with the company and gave them a payout to replace the car, which the company lawyer accepted. I am still off work recovering from my injuries and I probably won't be back for 3 more months. Last month I received a letter from the company stating that I owed them the cost of the car because I was the one responsible for it when it was totaled and written off. I thought it was a mistake or something, so I called the insurance company, got written confirmation of the settlement and sent it in to them with a note that the car had already been paid for by the insurance company. Now they have sent me to a collection agency and I have debt collectors calling saying I owe $40,000. I live in California. Do I call the insurance company to let them know, or do I need to get a lawyer? Is them calling the debt collector even legal? Sorry if these questions are stupid, but I am already stressed enough from trying to recover and this has just made it worse. Relevant comments. Commenter, try making some phone calls to your employer and the insurance company to see if you can get things straightened out quickly. But if you hit a brick wall, it's time to get an attorney involved. Don't let this go too long. OP, my employer tells me I have to talk to the debt collector since it is in their hands now. I'll call the insurance company first thing Monday morning to see what they say. Commenter, it sounds like maybe you work for a pretty large company? You might need to climb the chain of command to speak with someone who has more familiarity with these issues. Your own employer should not be trying to collect a debt from you, whether directly or through a debt collection agency. The insurance company represents your employer, so they will probably be of limited assistance. More than likely, you'll need the help of an attorney to cut through this red tape. Edit. Oh, wait. Who is the original creditor that turned over the debt to the collection agency, your employer, or the insurance company? OP, the drunk driver's insurance company paid them $40,000 as a settlement to replace the car. This was accepted by the company lawyer in a letter and payment was sent. My company is the one that sent me to the collection agency. Commenter, got it. Yeah, it sounds like someone at your employer screwed up. You need to work your way up the chain to find the person who can rescind the decision to send it to collections. The insurance company might be able to give you some leverage documentation contact info. Update, 2 months later. Original post here. The TLDR version is that I was almost killed by a drunk driver while I was driving a company car. His insurance paid the blue book value, $40,000, to the company, but I was sent to collections and told that I owed them $40,000 for the car because I didn't return it to them in the condition which they gave it to me. No one at the company or the collections agency would help me and they just sent me back and forth. Company told me to talk to collections told me to talk to the company, so I ended up getting a lawyer because the stress of being hounded by collections was setting back my recovery. The lawyer sent a very strongly worded letter to someone high up that I couldn't reach myself because I kept getting the runaround. That person didn't know anything about it and the company launched an investigation. The 3 people who kept giving me the runaround ended up being charged with fraud and a bunch of other stuff. I don't know much, but the police say they have emails and they think the 3 were planning on keeping the payment for themselves since the company was already paid. They are also in trouble for fraudulently using company resources to send me to collections for a fake debt. Afterward, my company wrote me a letter of apology. They paid the costs for my lawyer and made sure the debt was removed from my record. They also made a donation to a charity of my choice. I am nearly ready to return to work, but they told me to take as much time as I need. After talking with the police, I believe the higher-ups were not aware because the police say the 3 were trying to keep it a secret. The drunk driver's insurance is paying all my bills related to the incident, so I won't have debt from this ever. All in all, I am doing much better. I would like to thank our /legal advice and everyone who offered advice and encouragement and sent me supportive messages. You were all so helpful and I appreciate it. Moving on to our last story, and it says, co-worker shares private information about me in a meeting. Hey everyone, I, F27, really need your advice on how to handle this situation. I work an office job, and next to me sits the executive assistant, F61. We don't get along well because she treats me like her daughter. I notice it every time it happens and ask her to stop, but she doesn't. Today, we were in a tense meeting discussing a sensitive topic for the company. The atmosphere was already strained among the 8 participants. At some point, our boss suggested taking a break or calling it a day. I agreed that ending the meeting might be the better option. The assistant then looked at me weirdly and, in a very aggressive tone, said, "Well, you sure know a lot about terminations." There was a brief, awkward silence before she immediately added, "Because she had an abortion." I was completely stunned and had no idea how to react. My colleagues were just as shocked. I just wished everyone a nice weekend, left the room, and went home early. It's true that I had an abortion this year, but I have no idea how she found out. Only 2 people in my life know about it, and she doesn't know either of them. Regardless, I find it absolutely unacceptable to bring something like that up, especially in a professional setting, whether it's relevant to the discussion or not. Now I'm wondering what steps I can take. We don't have a workers' council. Our HR representative is based at another location and is currently on extended sick leave. Our boss sees these kinds of conflicts as personal issues that should be resolved between the individuals involved. I plan to confront the assistant on Monday. Could there be legal consequences for her, or do I just have to accept this and move on? I'd really appreciate any advice, thanks in advance. Update, same day I have an appointment with a lawyer first thing Monday morning. Since we only need a sick note from the 3rd day of absence, I'll be calling in sick on Monday and discussing the next steps with the lawyer. I've also found the contact details of the data protection officer at the clinic, but I'll wait until after my lawyer appointment to proceed with that. I really appreciate all of your support. The idea that sensitive data might have been leaked from the clinic didn't occur to me on my own, and I hadn't even considered it before. You've all opened up a lot of options for me that I'll discuss with the lawyer on Monday. Thank you for that. Update, first of all, thank you for all the helpful responses. I'll try to reply to as many as I can. After a thorough search online, I found out that the partner of the boss's son actually works at the clinic where I had the procedure. I strongly suspect that this is how the assistant got hold of the information, as she regularly attends family events and birthdays of the boss's family. This seems to be the most likely explanation for how she found out. Update, on Monday, I had a meeting with a lawyer, and it was definitely worth it. During the meeting with the lawyer, my boss called me and asked me to come to the office for a clarifying conversation. After discussing with my lawyer, I went to the office to have the conversation. The assistant greeted me in tears and insisted that it wasn't meant like that. I took my favorite colleague with me as a witness/support, and we entered the meeting. Given the sensitive nature of the topic, I asked for minutes to be taken, which everyone agreed to. In the conversation, my boss explained that such behavior between colleagues would not be tolerated, and the assistant had to apologize and promise that it wouldn't happen again. I then asked what consequences would follow, to which he seemed confused and asked if I even wanted consequences, since an apology was given. Naturally, I demanded consequences for the assistant and clarification about the data leak. I also told the boss that it was outrageous that he was asking if I wanted consequences instead of implementing them himself, especially when it comes to something as sensitive as spreading private information. He became a bit grumpy but explained that it wasn't a data leak and that he had just slipped up. When I asked where he got this information from, he bluntly admitted that he had learned about it through his daughter-in-law. He even followed up with, "But you couldn't even tell you had the procedure." I seriously thought I was going to flip out in that room, but fortunately, I managed to stay composed. I asked for confirmation of his statements to make sure everything was understood correctly, and then had everyone sign the protocol. I got up, wished everyone a nice day, and informed him that my lawyer would be contacting him, and we'd go from there. One of the 6 colleagues who was in the meeting on Friday approached me afterward, apologized for not saying anything in the moment, and wished me luck, strength, and that someone would react better than he did if something like this happened again. I really appreciated that. 3 days later, here's where we stand. The assistant received her 3rd warning. I don't know where the first 2 came from. Today, I received confirmation that she has to leave the company. I think my boss would have preferred not to make this decision, but since the situation spread very quickly through the office grapevine, it seems to have influenced his decision. As for the clinic, the first contact was made through my lawyer. I didn't personally call or inform the data protection officer. The lawyer took care of all of that. The lady at the clinic no longer works there, as the lead doctor seems to be aware of the risks. He apologized. Both over the phone and in writing, and I'll be receiving a nice compensation. And with my employer, we were able to agree on a very nice severance package, and the termination of my employment is happening soon. These are all nice solutions, but there are still civil and criminal proceedings ongoing, which I can't discuss right now. The lawyer is motivated to bring further consequences, especially regarding GDPR violations. All I can say is, don't tolerate this kind of treatment. Last Friday, I was completely overwhelmed and unsure how to handle it. But I received so much support and perspective, especially here on Reddit, that I was able to navigate the situation and seek help.